I had a handful of ideas for a title, but then I was going to put something just generic, like angels or something, but I like God's children because I think after we go through these verses, Hebrews, I think the verse he quotes has more to it than we just at first glance realize. And that was a little tidbit I found that I wanted to flesh out fully to where it wasn't just me saying something that sounds ridiculous or out there. But I wanted to read all of Hebrews 1, the whole thing, because obviously we need to make sure because a lot of people take one piece or a verse and they'll take it and run with it however they'd like, and they forget that it connected to other things. But anyway, Hebrews 1. I did the Berean Standard? Yeah, Berean Standard Bible for this one. The S throws me off every time because they have several.
Just depends on if they have the footnotes or not. That's really
exactly.
nice.
And I did put the footnotes. I liked that they had footnotes. Sometimes they're pretty good. And I don't know why they didn't just put that in there in the first place. So I did some parentheses. I put the footnotes in there. I didn't want to take those out for no reason. I liked a lot of them. But anyway, on many past occasions and in many different ways, God spoke to our fathers through the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, in his Son, footnote, whom he appointed heir of all things, and through whom he made the universe. The world, literally the ages, and I think that word also means eons, so it's kind of like ages. The Son is the radiance of God's glory, an exact representation of his nature, upholding all things by his powerful word. We talked about previous lessons that his there is the Father's powerful word. That's why I left it capitalized. I didn't like the capitalizations. I took several out. After he, the Son, had provided purifications for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high. So he became as far superior to the angels as the name he has inherited is excellent beyond theirs. For to which of the angels did God ever say, "You are my son. Today I have become your father"? Literally, today I have begotten you. So it's the same concept. Or again, I will be his father, and he will be my son. And again, when God brings his firstborn into the world, he says, "Let all God's angels worship him." And I put odes there. That was my insertion. They didn't know that, so I had to tell them. Yeah. Whoa. Now about the angels, he says, he makes his angels winds, his servants flames of fire. But about the Son, he says, "Your throne, O God, endures forever and ever, and justice is the scepter of your kingdom. You have loved righteousness and hated wickedness, therefore God, your God, has appointed you above your companions with the oil of joy." As you can see why I didn't do that one this day. "And in the beginning, O Lord, you laid meaning he's quoting another section. In the beginning, O Lord, you laid the foundations of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you will remain. They will all wear out like a garment. You will roll them up like a robe, like a garment. They will be changed. But you remain the same, and your years will never end. Yet to which of the angels did God ever say, 'Sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet'? Are not the angels," literally it's rhetorical, "are they not all ministering spirits sent to serve those who inherit salvation?" And like I said, those are the footnotes. I try to use different symbols for if I put something in there, some parentheses or footnotes. So that was just Hebrews 1. This is the part I'm going to touch on. I put it all in here again as a reminder that he's making. I put in my notes to make this, because I didn't want to forget this part, even though we're tackling just verse 7. But I didn't want to forget this part. When he's going between verses here and he says stuff like this word is a conjunction, this but, and it can mean yet, it can mean and, it can mean but, it can mean, the amount of connections, it has to be context. It has to be.
Is it Kai? Yeah.
It literally means everything under the sun. So when it says but, you could wrap your head around it that way. But I realized as I read through Hebrews 1 and other pieces, and I was seeing that typically it wasn't like one thing is this, but completely separate from that, this is what the sun is. What it's saying is it's more close to yet, as if the body that the angels have, the son got, but here's how he's special. It's a furthered point almost every time. So here's the little note I wrote here. So in English class, literature class, whatever, how often were teachers when they would read, we'd read a book, a passage, a poem, doesn't matter. They would ask about the meaning or the theme behind things like the curtain was blue. Yet the author many times, and probably most times, as children reading those things, why can't the curtain just be blue? That was just it. Sometimes, and I'd say most times, the curtain was just blue. Sometimes, and I wrote here, sometimes mankind likes complicated. Because there's so much we don't know that understanding something complicated makes us feel smarter. It puts a new spin on how Yeshua, Jesus, told us to come to him like a little child. And how Paul refers to us as babes in Christ. I put humble, little child, humble, simple in faith, trusting. Trusting him at his word. That's repeated several times. But I put here as well, Paul's making the distinction between a mere angel. I say mere because he's trying to compare unique to just an angel in general. Angels, the concept of angels. And Yeshua himself, literally himself and his body. So he's connecting many different things at the same time, but in general, angel and how Yeshua in the resurrected body function different things as in it like that. So here is Hebrews 1:7 and where it quotes. So what we just read, now about the angels, he says, he makes his angels winds, his servants flames of fire. First glance, that just sounds like, okay, well, he's telling us what angels are made out of, right? So that's it. We're done. But when you go back to Masoretic, which would be the natural where we end up, because it's all together in one book, he makes the winds his messengers, flames of fire his servants. So instead of saying that the angels are made out of wind, this one seems to, it's the same concept, poetically switched. He makes the winds, as if just wind in general, a messenger. As if he took a piece of creation and turned it into something else. Flames of fire, his servants. So fire, he turned into an angel. But then when we go to the Septuagint, it kind of makes more sense, and it will as we keep going. It says, who makes his angels spirits, and his ministers a flaming fire. And his ministers a flaming fire. So I wrote over here, and I put on the next slide as well. I just don't want to skip over this. So angels, that word, which I did notice in the Septuagint, angels and ministers are two separate words. It's not angelos and angelos. Angels, that word specifically, can mean sent one, bringer of tidings at its root word, messenger, and that we know just from other verses that they are labeled, especially in Hebrew, like B'nai Elohim, which is sons of God. So we know that they're compared to sons being in their heavenly bodies up there with him constantly, things like that.
Are you saying the word angels there is not angelos?
The first one is. This, ministers, it's literally ministaros or something. It's just ministers. It literally means what it says. Like it wasn't a bunch of different things attached. These were two separate words, which I thought was interesting. We're going to keep going. Oh, I skipped some notes. I don't want to skip my notes. Oh, that's a lot of notes. Okay. Um, I'll mention it now. So I put in here a little, I called it rabbit trail dash ish. We'll see. Are we not to be also? Is this literally only talking about angels, or is it the concept of a heavenly body? And it doesn't, here's I'll mention the first piece. The second piece we'll talk later. First piece I thought was odd. It doesn't say he made. Angels were made. Are there any more further after being made after the fact? We know how difficult it is to dig into original language and the and the current tense and past tense and all that. But I did think it was interesting. Even the translators said who makes, almost as if current and or future. Now, I'm not trying to say that there's more angels being made. Not what I'm getting at. It'll make more sense as we keep going. But I did think it was interesting wording because it's mentioned like that each time. He makes them as if current or future, and his ministers a flaming fire. That verb was an interesting placement. It didn't say he made them out of. It didn't say anything like that. It says he makes. But my note here was, are we not to be also? As Nate discussed last week, today I have become your father. As if the body, being literally made of spirit, is the timing and culmination of that. Sons of God. Because that's what he calls us later, children of God. Gives a new meaning to makes his angels, sent ones, tiding bringers, into spirits. Is that a resurrection verse? Is that a resurrection verse or a promise for us too? Is that a prophecy? People just didn't notice? I'm sure there's plenty. I just put just a thought.
But in the context, it says that the one who covers his upper parts with water, one who places clouds as his steps, one who walks. But then it says he laid the foundation of the earth. It does seem to make it present active tense.
Are you referring like present active tense at the beginning with creation? Is that what you're referring to?
No, I think you're making a really good point. I was looking at the rest of the context.
Yeah.
Because he covers with waters, he places clouds, he walks upon the wings of the wind.
And all of those are active now.
And he makes his angels. But then it says he laid the foundation of the earth upon its stability. So it does differentiate between this is done.
Yeah. I was almost done with my study, and then I went, wait a minute, it says makes. I was mulling it over this morning with her, and I said, wait a minute, it said makes. The makes part's not even in my notes. I thought about it this morning. But let's keep going. So this is the Anglos I was talking about. The screenshot would not have fit if I tried to put the top, but this is talking about the Anglos word, which would be the word for angels, which is, it's who makes his, is it Anglios? Anyone? I'm going to study Greek. I'll take one for the team and study Greek. Okay. We need at least one person. The more I went through this study, I was like, I looked at her. I was like, I found some websites that have Greek. I'm going to learn them. I'm going to have to. We don't have a choice. At this point, it's getting rough. But anyway, I did my little lines here. So that word alone can mean many different things. It does not immediately notate a angelic messenger that comes from the heavens. Not immediately every time. Context alone.
Yeah.
So technically that word has meant these things, like what we mentioned, Strong's. They take all of the examples used A group of men find the context and try to make a definition, because obviously the Bible didn't come with a definition at the back. That'd be great. So it can mean a messenger in general. I think Elijah is referred to as a messenger. Now, obviously, they wouldn't have translated it Elijah the angel, because they would have known he's not literally an angel. But a messenger, an envoy, that word can also mean like cavalry, not cavalry, cavalry. There it is. I said it wrong yesterday. While I was thinking about it, I was like, cavalry, that's not right. Cavalry, so like horses or like an army kind of thing. One who is sent, an angel, a messenger of God. Now, what I think is interesting is all of those are individual things. Envoy is plural. So if they are all sent in one accord, it can be angel. Now, obviously, if understanding context and you realize it's more than one angel, you're probably going to translate it angels. But I thought it was interesting. It wasn't an immediate one or more. It was one in most cases, but envoy is an entire entourage, I guess. But then I noticed the root word. I was looking on different things. I think Bible Hub, Blue Letter Bible, I think is where I got this. But Bible Hub, it put it at the very top. It said the root word, to bring tidings. So tidings are typically a good thing. I would say that when the angel Gabriel brought that to Mary and said, you've been found righteous, here's the Son of Man. It's a big deal. That's a title. But then I noticed this part down here. I mainly highlighted this part for the second piece, because I just thought it was interesting that the writers of the Strongs, who put, sometimes when you go through, they're like, when you see the different things they add to these Strong's definitions, it's like, where did you get that? Sometimes they add some cool tidbits in here. I enjoyed this one. So we know these are two separate situations where angelos could be used. A messenger, envoy, one who is sent, and it gives some examples. And what I thought was weird is they bring in Homer a lot. I guess they're comparing it to the Homer writings,
that's
the Greek in general.
Greek writings and how to understand. Yeah,
okay,
they bring a lot of the Greek writings.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I guess for language purposes that would make sense.
Yeah.
But the second one I thought was worded interesting, because they put a little summary statement in here that was, I liked it. In the scriptures, both the Old and the New Testament, one of that host of heavenly spirits that according alike to Jewish and Christian opinion, wait upon the monarch of the universe and are sent by him to earth now to execute his purposes. Well, ta-da! That was worded well. I like that they use monarch. That is something today we don't. I think Satan's done a really good job of taking the concept of a king and removing it. Like we've talked about before, I think the Father wanted the king role to be to him instead of having middle management. That's why he was confused when the people asked for Saul to be a king, because they were seeing the Canaanites. But I think at the same time, because Satan realized, his plan didn't work, he had to flip it. Okay, well, forget the king then, we'll toss it. But now we know Yeshua fits that role. And we're supposed to look to him as the king, and then the Father being the king of king of king of king. It goes higher than that. I think it's interesting that monarch, I use the word monarch, and you don't typically see that in really anything today. It's a very big piece when it comes to servanthood. Servanthood makes sense. Like, imagine the head of the army, when they go to the presence of the king, they're on one knee. The concept of worship in that regard, just obeisance, we don't have that. We don't do that to our bosses or the presidents of our companies. That doesn't make any sense. But it would have in all of the rest of time. But anyway.
Like that it's the monarch of the universe.
Yeah. Yeah, of course they put universe there. But yeah, that word could be ages. It could be anything. But yes, of the heavens and the earth, the two things he created. Not the universe. He didn't call it that. But anyway. I put some notes here. So I already wrote that note's old. I don't know why I put it back on here. And then, yeah, I wanted to pull it back to, it doesn't really say it on here. It did kind of in here, but the concept that they're typically referred to as sons of God. Like I mentioned to Nate earlier, the more I looked at that parable Jesus taught about the prodigal son, the first son that didn't leave, I think it's an angel. I think it's the concept of the angels, the sons that stayed. And that's why it makes a little bit more sense thinking that way when you read what the son asked after the fact. Because he said, I didn't go anywhere. And the father said, that means you've had all that was mine was yours. I've shared with you what I've had the whole time. That's why it's a big deal that he came back, because now he didn't perish in that. I had to put an Elijah bias in here. I had to. I couldn't avoid it. So I put our verses in here, and I put how the translators, they add words or take words out. Typically add, because Greek seems to be a little more direct. So for English, we get the fluff words in between to make it just make sense. I kind of added a few in here with the understanding we just went back on. To see, I put rabbit trail-ish back in here just to make sure. But to see if it made more sense, worse sense, could these be what the wording should have been? We'll see. So, back to that original Hebrews verse. Now, about the angels, he says, they could be read this way. He makes his angels, sent ones, out of winds. His servants, out of flames of fire. I think we could think about that even with the original verse. That is kind of what comes to mind anyway. Then the Masoretic, he has the wind, or he makes the winds literally into his messengers. Flames of fire, he transforms them into his servants. That's kind of where our brain goes naturally with those first two. The Septuagint, rethinking of the makes piece, if it is current or future, or even possibly applies to us as well, or just spirit beings in general, or those the Father plans to be, who makes his angels, his sent ones, into spirits, and his ministers, which that was the word, I knew I put it somewhere, it literally just means ministers, into a flaming fire. Didn't Jesus call the disciples, I send you? Would those be technically sent ones? I mean, we know that the Son of Man was a sent one from the Father. He said that many times. Now, he was a sent one that was given a resurrected body and still technically sent, so he doubled up there. But I do think it's interesting. So I put my little rabbit trail here. Possibly. I put a question mark. Because this word authos, where I'm putting into, is there. And it's translated as a million different things, similar to that word I was talking about earlier, where it could mean many different things. I think he said kai. This authos can take a million different forms depending on what we're talking about. It could be used for self. It could be used for the idea of same. Him, herself, it, one, other, and then it takes a weird turn towards the bottom, and it goes at, by, in, into, of. Wait a minute. What is this word supposed to be? It can really be anywhere. So when I did my Elijah vibes section here, who makes the ones he sends into spirit, and the ones he has ministered out of fire itself. Is that not a resurrected body? Now that said, what are angels? When we go through here, it would make a lot of sense as to what they can do, how they interact with the world, and how the Son of Man told us that's the type of body we will have. If we understand what angels are, we can also understand how we will do greater things than these, like he told us. So now I could put a million, but now I've got several slides of angel references or references where Jesus himself did something, because we do know that him being the example, that in the flesh he told us that we would do greater things than these. And I'm pretty positive that's referring to the resurrected bodies that he's going to give us. So when we think of angels themselves, the verses make more sense if we think about them if we've got the heavenly body, and we'll see what they're made out of, what they can do, and things like that. So Luke 20:34, Jesus answered, "The sons of this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are considered worthy to share in the age to come and in the resurrection from the dead will never marry, or neither marry nor be given in marriage." If that was as simple as it got. I've seen some people question that one. In fact, they can no longer die, because they are like the angels. And since they are sons of the resurrection, I think that's an interesting phrase with what we read, they are sons of God in the resurrection. It's an interesting phrase if that was the case now. It's talking about the resurrection, will be sons of the resurrection and sons of God. So I think a lot of the verses like that, and especially Paul's words, takes an interesting little bit of a mind shift when we think of sons in the literal sense as when we're in our heavenly bodies. Even Moses demonstrates that the dead are raised in the passage about the burning bush. For he calls the Lord the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living, for to him all are alive. So I put some notes here on what exactly did we just learn about angels themselves. I could easily have missed some. If you see something, please share. I noted some not in need of a helpmeet. They are not in need of a mate, a wife. They, of themselves, the Father gives them instructions, and that's what they carry out. We do see a handful of times where, like Paul, I don't think Paul ever married. He did exactly what he felt like the Father sent him to do. No more, no less. We know Jesus himself lived this way, and things like that, but other than that, the Father, for angels specifically, did not appoint them a helpmeet. So like Adam had that moment of going through and naming the angels and giving them their authority structures. And then he looked around and he himself didn't have a helpmeet. The angels never got that moment. They never had that, we'll call it an epiphany. They never had that moment of, I'm lacking something, because as the Father said, or the master of the house in the parable of the prodigal son, he told the first one that didn't leave, you've had everything I've had. I've shared all I have with you. I think Genesis 6 or Jubilees, it says the angels left their first estate. But I think it might actually be deeper into Enoch when he told the angels during the reprimand that you had the eternal things. I don't remember that verse off the top of my head.
Jude talks about they left their first estate.
Okay. It might be then when he's telling Enoch to tell Semyaza and the 200 that you had the eternal things. Like trying to explain to them why forgiveness is not theirs. They cannot have it. Because they had what they should have had from the beginning and would have forever. And they chose, even with that information, they chose the opposite. But anyway, another note was, they don't die. So I put in parentheses, I think, obviously in our flesh, we think dying. The world gives a lot of opinions on what death is. But angels not dying. Death is when your soul cannot give a body actions. So I wrote, death is when your soul / you have no body to control. Once resurrected, the Father will let you stay in that spiritual body, angelic body, forever. So can you die? No. You have the law written on your heart, which is exactly all he's required. and now you've got a body. Why would he take you out of that body? You can't technically do anything that would make him mad enough to do that because the Father's in control of that in the first place. You can't die of your own accord. Like in Revelation when the rocks, please fall on me, and he said, no, you're not allowed to die. And I'll put another note. No, officially, sons of God, as the angels are. Like I was saying, after the resurrection, it seems, that is when, similar to how he said that now I've become your father. Because officially, in that regard, we are sons of God. None are considered dead, to the Father anyway, until the lake of fire deletes them. A new spin on fear him who can kill the body and the soul in Gehenna, the lake of fire. All right, I can't read every time. Who wants to do it? Okay, go ahead.
All right, Jubilees 2:2. For on the first day he created the heavens which are above, and the earth and the waters and all the spirits which serve before him, the angels of the presence, and the angels of sanctification, and the angels of the spirit of fire, and the angels of the spirit of the winds, and the angels of the spirit of the clouds, and of darkness, and of snow, and of hail, and of hoarfrost, and the angels of the voices, and of the thunder, and the lightning, and the angels of the spirits of cold, and of heat, and of winter, and spring, and of autumn, and of summer, and of all the spirits of his creatures which are in the heavens and on the earth. He created the abysses and the darkness, eventide and night, and the light, dawn, and day, which he hath prepared in the knowledge of his heart.
You must have read that recently because I stumbled the first few times. Okay.
That's one of the songs.
Yes.
Yeah. So, first day, created literally on day one when he said, let there be light. We're going to get to some slides later where angels emit light. Satan can appear as a being of light. He doesn't get to do that because of something he did and he gained that power. It's because he's still an angel body. He's still an angel. Through agency, the Father has set them over all aspects of the creation he created in the knowledge of his heart. So it seems the Father had to give them capabilities to handle the running of the business, the family farm. Oh, I see why you had to increase the font. That's rough.
I did where I could.
I was like, that's rough. I can't see that. All right, everybody squint. Luke 24:41. While they were still in disbelief because of their joy and amazement, he asked them, do you have anything to eat? So they gave him a piece of broiled fish. Some manuscripts include, and some honeycomb. And he took it and ate it in front of them. Angels eat meat? 2 points. Genesis 18, 1 through 3, 7, and 8. I skipped a little bit because obviously I could put the whole Bible in here. Where does that sound familiar? The 3 men with Abraham. And God appeared to him by the oak of Mamre, and he sat by the door of his tent at noon. Pause. It just says God here. I think even the Masoretic just says Lord, all caps. Hold on. And he lifted up his eyes, and behold, and lo, 3 men. I thought it was one God and others 3 men. Interesting. No, it's not a Trinity verse. 3 men stood before him, and having seen them, he ran to meet them from the door of his tent, and did obeisance to the ground. Obeisance, good word there. And he said, Lord, if indeed I have found grace in thy sight, pass not by thy servant. Almost as if, like the verse I showed you this morning, he hears. Whether it's a direct prayer or not, the Father's hearing you. Every idle word or deed. So that Abraham in this moment knew it didn't matter which one he addressed, or if he said it in general, the Father's going to hear me. And he didn't say, hello, you guys. He said, Lord. Like an intercom system. Maybe not the best example, but pass not by thy servant. And Abram ran to the kine and took a young calf, tender and good, and gave it to his servant, and he hastened to dress it. And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed, and he set them before them, and they did eat, and he stood by them under the tree. I'm going to read my notes, and we're going to get there. Christ did things to show us what we would be capable of in life and in the resurrection. Angels and us, once resurrected, have the ability to eat. It's nothing new. I just gave you Genesis. Meat as well. And then an interesting note, Christ didn't say he was hungry. He said, do you have something to eat? He hadn't tasted food in 3 days. Tastes good. He said, do you have anything to eat? We can't forget the scriptures, and the Father's guided actions were for generations after to see. The Father wanted us to see and understand what we'll be able to do in our heavenly bodies. Sometimes the Father leaves things out on purpose, because he knows we're going to argue about it and get confused here. And it implies that we're not just sitting on a cloud singing for eternity. And then Genesis, we have angels eating as well. And meat, butter, milk, bread, cakes, etc. I don't think meat, butter, milk, I don't think those grow on trees. So that implies that there's some aspect of, like I've said before, the covenant has eternal life for us. It does not say all things neither die nor live. I think that's an interesting point. I've heard it used before for the verse where the worm dieth not, talking about after death. Pretty sure worms don't get eternal life. I don't remember that verse. But anyway, 2 Baruch 51:10. I wanted to throw these in here because even the extra books throw several angel verses at us. For in the heights of that world shall they dwell, and they shall be made like unto the angels. Let's talk about the resurrection. And be made equal to the stars, and they shall be changed into every form they desire, from beauty into loveliness, and from light into the splendor of glory. Angels can change forms at will into something for us that the Father will in that moment. So we can change it at a will, but also if the Father, talking about the angels in there right now and we're in our flesh, the angels can take a form. The Father, in his knowledge from the creation, if he knows our personality and who we might interact with in a certain way, and we're typically mean to old men or something, hypothetically, he might put one in angel form in front of us to see how we interact with that, if he's working on our hearts in that scenario. I think that's an interesting point. Matthew 17:20. Because you have so little faith, he answered. For truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. I don't think we have any recorded scenarios of a mountain moving from a mortal man. And I don't really know of a moment when I would need to here in this flesh, other than buying a property big enough to say that I want that mountain in the middle over there. So it seems that this might be one of those explaining if we have the faith to attain to the resurrection, we would then be able to move mountains and to resituate the earth once the kingdom's here. And I put, can move large objects with ease. Not superhuman strength per se, but as we saw with Jubilees, an aspect that they can interact with the creation almost a lot closer than we can, but almost as close as the Father and how he made the creation. Like whatever, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. John 3, 5 through 8. Jesus answered, "Truly, truly, I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God unless he is born of water and spirit." More information. "Flesh is born of flesh, but spirit is born of spirit. Do not be amazed that I say you must be born again. The wind blows where it wishes. You hear its sound, but you do not know where it comes from or where it's going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit." We read fire and wind and or spirit and now water. So which is it? In our understanding of fire and water, you can't mix those two. It's one or the other. But so it seems, born/made out of water, spirit, and fire at the same time. I put, how does that work? It does to the Father. Because also the fire did not consume the bush with Moses. 2 Kings 19:35. "And it came to pass at night that the angel of the Lord went forth and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000, and they rose early in the morning, and behold, these were all dead corpses." Thought the angel of the Lord was only in the priesthood concept, right? No? It's almost as if, using some word definitions, anglios of Yahweh, that's just a sent one. We obviously know that a lot of people take that and pretend that it's a title, when if the Father didn't give it a title, it doesn't have a title. So in this moment, the Father lovingly clarified that an angel did this, because there's many times where he says, "I did this." So it seems it's very direct, but we do know that a king sends someone out to do something. Who did it? The king. But I wrote here, angels can carry out the Father's tasks swiftly. Speed was not an issue. Even 185,000, even in the span of an entire night, is a lot. Mind you, one angel.
That's not that.
Oh, of course it's not. that makes sense.
It could be like an envoy of Yahweh.
Are you saying like this part right here?
Came to
At
pass
night,
the angel of the Lord does not in the Greek.
So just angel.
It's definitely not a title.
Came to pass at night, angel of the Lord.
It could be envoy then. He could just sent 30, knocked them out. But actually, I think there's other references to this that say it was one angel.
But it doesn't tie it to the angel of the presence.
Exactly. So why would they use
the angel of the Lord?
I know. I think Scripture didn't even give us this phrase. I think we've just seen that phrase used by people who want it to mean more. Like I was saying earlier with the idea of complicated. Right. People convolute something to make it sound like, well, I know something you don't know. Listen to me.
Right. Like it's a Christ.
Yeah.
Christophany.
Yes.
Christophany words.
Christophsis. Yeah. Make up words at the same time. John 20, 19 through 20, and 26 through 27. Because he mentioned something interesting twice. "It was the first day of the week, and that very evening, while the disciples were together with the doors locked for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them." The doors were locked. "Peace be with you," he said to them. After he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side. Again, a little bit down, 8 days later, his disciples were once again inside with the doors locked, and Thomas was with them. Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then Jesus said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." He entered a locked room. Fire, smoke, things like that, wind, goes through cracks. People use that to get out of caves a lot. Water, if it's not solid, is going to seep through cracks. So what we understand angels are now made of, that's not that crazy to hear. Now I think, yeah, I didn't include it. I don't know if it was in the middle or even right above this, but they called him, I didn't want to address it at all because it would have been a whole exegesis breakdown. But it talks about, because it uses the word spirit, and Jesus goes, I'm not a spirit, but clearly the translators ruined that part. I think that probably if I dig into that word, he's talking about a ghost. I think other versions use the word ghost, like a specter. Yeah, like a demon, that concept. Because we know from studying this stuff, ghosts aren't real. It's demons, and that's it. Other than these scenarios like this where we have angels sent by the Father for a specific purpose. We know like people don't just wander until they're carried somewhere. It's not how it works. But I wrote down here. Go ahead.
I like that it says, peace be with you.
Yeah, no.
Like showed up in the middle of them with, hey, calm down.
Don't panic. How many times did the angels do that? Yeah. Like all of them.
They just show up and you're like,
do not be afraid. And it's this giant glowing lantern of a person. Like,
right.
I'm horrified.
Or if the door was closed.
That'll be funny when I get to it, when I'm getting to later.
But he didn't. He just appeared among them.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, oh, Jesus is here. Hi.
Just spooked. Yeah. But I put, thinking about that, Jesus did tell us, you will do greater things than these. And this is what I think he's talking about. Teleportation and transfiguring, materializing, and visually. I saw this. I wanted to put it in there, didn't I? Yep, there it is. That's the verse I was referring to, 39. So yeah, it would have been way after this. I think I have 24 in here somewhere, but not that verse. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, no. So back to what angels can do. Hey, what happened?
I broke the TV.
But I can read it.
Oh.
But I was going to say, so yeah, back to what angels can do. Teleportation, or from our eyes, it looks like teleportation. To disappear and reappear in a literal delete, copy, paste, that's not a thing. That's a computer reference. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I put teleportation / transfiguring, because we've seen that word many times. Materializing. So it's almost, we understand water, rephrase, we don't understand water. Scientists definitely don't understand water. It can take every form we'd like. We know the three main ones, ice, vapor, and then water. But at the same time, what is it, somoluminescence or something, where you heat it up with electricity? Have you seen that, where it turns into light? It just turns into fire. It's like, that's insane. That's insane.
And there's the fourth phase of water, which is that like gel-like structure.
Oh, no, what do they call that? Superfluid? No.
Exclusion zone.
Yeah, no, I remember those charts where it stops and then there's this whole red area. They're like, we don't know what this is. Yeah. But that's why I put in here materializing, mainly visual. So like if you think about something, a lot of the technology we have today, back then, they would have just said that's witchcraft, get out. Like that, it doesn't make any sense. For us, it's mainly visual. So that's probably why even the disciples said, that's a ghost. It's not a ghost. If you not walked with Jesus for however long at this point, are you kidding me? But they can do that at will and still being about, okay, hold on. I'm horribly worded, but did he get touched? Did he not tell Mary he can't be touched? I think that's a good breakdown. I did not break this one down. I just saw it and I went, it got touched.
Yeah.
Could it be she was in a cemetery around dead bodies?
Right.
I've heard that part before. Didn't really piece those together. But that said, it would have had to do with the uncleanness aspect, I think.
Because how long would you have been considered unclean after you had like touched a dead body, or he had been a dead body and they were?
If she washed, even. So the end of the day, when the day's over.
Okay.
So is it because did she on her way in touch something unclean and he knew that? And she probably would have known that to be okay with, I mean, I'm sure she'd probably want to hug him or something. But I thought that was interesting because we see Thomas touched him. Which, I mean, yeah, when you dig into unclean versus not, or clean versus unclean, all those little details, it's not as complicated as it really sounds. It's touching something nasty.
Thomas touched him.
It doesn't?
He tells him to,
Oh, he didn't?
but it never says Thomas went up and touched him. Unless it's in a different gospel. That makes me think about the whole Peter and the sheep vision, where where he tells him to rise up, kill, and eat.
Oh, as if it might have been like a vision concept?
But Peter never does.
Probably because
We
he knew he
assume
wouldn't.
Peter did,
He
but
knew
it
he
never
wouldn't.
says he does. In fact, he denies it. So I wonder, maybe he didn't. He's just like,
As
hey,
if he knew he wouldn't, so
look
that's
at
why he
this.
asked. Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good point because he doesn't stop talking. He said, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Reach out your hand and put it in my side. Put it into my side." I wouldn't do that either because there's a big hole in it. Stop doubting and believe. Like he says that as all one swift. It doesn't pause in the middle and say Thomas touched.
And it says
and then
Thomas
continue.
answered him.
Answered, yeah. Okay.
Now, I'm not saying he couldn't have, but it doesn't explicitly say he did.
It would be better for Thomas to just believe without having to.
Because that would be a different story if it actually said
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thomas
That's a
then
good point.
touched it.
Yeah, I thought about that. It was the first thought I had was like, wait a minute, he told Mary not to touch him, now he's telling Thomas to touch him. I'm confused. That's just a thought I had. Okay. First Enoch, Lawrence's version sounded a little easier to read. 104, 1 through 2. I swear to you, righteous, that in heaven the angels record your goodness before the glory of the Mighty One. We talked about that earlier. Wait with patient hope, for formerly you have been disgraced with evil and with affliction, but now shall you shine like the luminaries of the heaven. You shall be seen, and the gates of heaven shall be opened to you. Angels and us at that time shall shine, glow, produce light. Makes more sense with the fire and the water, and you heat it up and it turns into a ball of light, or it turns into fire. Makes sense. Angels record our deeds. So that is the instrument the Father used, and he uses to some degree. Seems to be pretty important. It's referenced a lot. Can the Father hear us from this distance? Probably, because we got to remember that each piece of creation is a piece of him, and he just kind of shares it kind of thing. Angels record our deeds. He wanted to have the concept of witnesses, counselors, things like that. Everything he told us to do, he does himself, not because he needs it, but because he wants to set a good example. So he gives the angels the duty of writing the deeds down. To where on that day, there's Exhibit A, and you are judged for every idle word and deed.
I think it's interesting at the end, in the understanding now of his creation, you shall be seen and the gates of heaven shall be open to you. Before, I would have read that as the pearly gates that I can now come into the kingdom. But now I read it as we could transcend the firmaments.
We will be allowed up there, but we won't want to stay because the Father's with us.
Right. But we'll be able to get,
Yeah, we'll get to
through
see,
the gates
yes.
of heaven.
The actual gates actually referenced many times already.
Right.
There's floodgates, there's windows, there's abysses of the deep that opened during the flood. Yeah.
But that's one of those places that actually reference that we can go to the other firmaments once we're in our glorified bodies.
What do they call it? Jacob's ladder. When Jacob saw the angels ascending and descending, some sort of trolley system. That's a joke.
Staircase.
Yeah, exactly.
Elevator.
Whatever vision he had. I thought I didn't put a lot of slides in here, but I did. 1 Kings 17:1. And Elihu the prophet, the Thesbite of Thesbe and of Gilead, said to Achad, As the Lord God of hosts, the God of Israel, lives, before whom I stand, there shall not be these years dew nor rain except by the word of my mouth. Now I wanted to put this in here because we think about all those miracles. We got to remember the Father gave these people the ability to do these things. And as we read in Jubilees, it's the angels who are in the literal controlling of them. Obviously, in Yachad, understanding with the Father, one. So they're not doing their own thing for no reason. Sun's not going to randomly move one day. But at the same time, these aren't the ability to somehow interact with the creation in ways that normal man, apart from the Father, can't. We can't just say it's not, verbally say it's not going to rain and it won't rain. Elijah himself did not go turn the faucet off. The Father gives him this inclination, and or through understanding, he knew to say this for the glory of the Father, and the angels did their pieces as to not allow for rain. And I say that because the two witnesses also have that ability. Revelation 11:4-6. These witnesses are the two olive trees and the two lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth. If anyone wants to harm them, fire proceeds from their mouths and devours their enemies. In this way, anyone who wants to harm them must be killed. These witnesses have power to shut the sky so that no rain will fall during the days of their prophecy, and power to turn the waters into blood, and to shake the earth with every kind of plague as often as they wish. I'm connecting the concept that a miracle seems like a miracle because in a normal scenario we couldn't do it. And it's not something that normally would occur in the Father's creation. He chooses a one-off change of something because our flesh gets used to routine. We think we wrap our heads around something and then behold, I do a new thing. We have to have that. Because clearly, like I was saying earlier, we complicate something that's supposed to be simple. So he takes something simple to get our attention and makes it complicated. It's supposed to rain. My crops are dying. Just kidding. Well, I'll wait till you wrap your head around my statutes again. Since you've been so busy with your crops, you get no rain. I will not bless what you want me to bless because you will not bless me with your time. But I put
one of those figurative, we think figurative to shut the sky so there's no rain. That word sky is oranos. It's firmament.
Mm-hmm.
So the power to shut the firmament so that it does not rain. Literally shutting the gates. Not this figurative, we're going to shut the sky.
I know, exactly. Shut the sky. And makes it clear, so that there no rain will fall during the... It doesn't just say shut the sky and stop.
Right.
Yeah. Like I said, I think the Father knew that we'd read this detached from the time, because obviously he can't write it for one specific time, because things change. Now, obviously, nothing under the sun changes, or nothing... I'm quoting that wrong. But I'll move on. I wrote down, understanding angels are over the weather patterns for the Father's glory. Rain can be withheld if need be. And fire as a defiance weapon for whoever is not against us is for us. I thought that was interesting. Remember, Jesus said, for whoever's not against us is for us. Because he was talking about he's doing things in your name, should we tell him to stop? Well, now hold on. He cannot shortly speak evil of me after doing that. For whoever is not against us is for us. To me, that sounds like if you're against him, you know to some degree who he is. And you're going against it on purpose. If you think, I don't know, blah, 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 you don't really understand. So how does he see that? As a sheep, as a baby. as a one of the children kind of concept, where more so like how we're supposed to take care of the widows and orphans, like an orphan, as if they're not being taken care of because they're not being shepherded correctly. If they're not against him, that means they think they're doing their lives and they're just to the side. He has to take care of those. Yeah. But then I wrote down again, power to shut the sky / rain, turn the waters to blood. Did I put that in there? I think so. And the earth with plagues as often as they wish. I thought those were interesting. Now, obviously, these probably are a handful of one-offs, but I think is the apocalypse of Abraham. That Abraham is walking to Mount Moriah, and I think Satan appears as a river.
I don't think that's Abraham. I might be Jasher.
It's possible. I read Jasher once, and unfortunately, my memory decided to keep a lot of it, and I hate that. Okay, I'll have to find that.
I looked for that the other day because we were supposed to appear with 3 diamonds.
Yeah, it was 3 times.
It's not an apocalypse.
Is that the same book that mentions 10? 10 tests? No, that's apocalypse.
Jubilees mentions 10 tests.
Okay. I thought that part was right. Not the. Okay, that makes sense.
But I'm wondering if it's from Jasher. I haven't found it yet. I remember reading it, but I haven't found it.
Oh, I went back to this now with all the things we've read. Oh, I did write down makes, like I was saying this morning. So yeah, I put in here makes seems odd since it sounds current / futuristic as well. Yet the angels are already made on day 1. Is it possible this is maybe a resurrection verse as well? Yeah. He makes his angels, sent ones, out of winds, his servants out of flames of fire. Put one more verse and then a question. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing, some people have entertained angels without knowing it. Has anyone ever had an encounter with an angel that they thought was odd? Or I even wrote down here, or someone they tried to find shortly after and they couldn't. I think Sean recently shared his example of his dad was looking for somebody and they turned the corner and there should have been a person in a truck, and then that truck didn't exist for miles. There's anything. Has anybody had one of those angels scenarios? No? Nothing? This is what I was saying. I said I wanted to add a personal story. I think I saw one Friday. Now, obviously, if it was a ball of light, I would have come here in sackcloth. But it was one of those where nobody was there. Somebody was there, and then nobody was there. And I got a story for y'all. I called Alex. I was on the way to. I'll go ahead and tell the story. It's all in here. I was about to give details. What have I clicked?
Oh, sorry, that's the song.
Go back. I don't know what I pushed, but it jumped. Okay. You can change how big the font is. I didn't know that. It was huge. Okay. So I wrote it down just because I know in moments of discussing I'll get sidetracked and I don't want to miss details or go off on a tangent on something else. So every Friday I leave somewhere between 3 and 4 p.m. to take our trash to one of the city compactors. Just taking the trash. We don't have the drive around trash stuff. So sad. Anyway, as I've done every Friday for a long time. So we've lived in our house almost 2 years, year and 7 months maybe. So I've done this typically almost every Friday. Typically, no one else is there when I go. It's empty. I'll just keep reading. Must not be a popular time. As usual, I pulled up to the side of the compactor. I got out. I threw the big bag of trash first. I put normal size bags and a really big bag, and I threw the really big bag in there. I threw the big bag of trash in. Then I grabbed a smaller box to throw in last. I went to throw the box in, and the wind made it hit the compactor side and fall to the ground. The wind kind of did that. I grabbed it again real fast, kind of just because I'm by myself a little bit. Grabbed it again and threw it in once more, but this time it was a little too much power, and I threw it. I wrote the wrong word. I threw it to the other side of the compactor, so the compactor's kind of like a box like this, and my car's here and I'm behind it. I threw it. I was at a little distance, small, but I still threw it, and it hit this side of the compactor on the opposite side. The box is probably about this big, so it went crazy. As I threw it, though, unthinking, there was a smaller, older woman standing there smiling, and out of instinct, seeing her, from almost hitting her with the box, I said, as I threw the boxes, oh, excuse me. And she let out a very gentle laugh. Still smiling, didn't say a word. I didn't think much of it, got in my car, started driving away. The place is not that big. It's probably the size of your property. So the compactor's on this far left. You pull in from one single entrance here. The car's always going to be facing this way for any human being that ever comes. Compactor, small building with an older man that works it, but he never leaves the building. His truck, and a bunch of dumpsters right here. I let out excuse me, gentle laugh, didn't say a word. I didn't think much of it. Got in my car, started driving away, and stopped at the gate to leave. I stopped. No one was there. Not a single car. I would have definitely seen someone, heard somebody, anything. There's no sound. The compactor's not running. Not a soul. The compactor is facing away from the only in and out. I stayed looking around for quite a while, thinking, where'd she go? Obviously, my brain's trying to rule out all the options. Where was that? Hold on. There's only ever one person there, like I said, that old man. But it's a man that works in a small building in the back right. Compactor is on the back left, where his truck's always in the same spot on that right. As I'm thinking about it, the lady, after her slight laugh, turned towards the exit, which the compactor is shaped where there's like a box, and then it's just this big thing, so it's obviously I can't see behind it. So the way, as I'm thinking, the lady, after her slight laugh, turned towards the exit, which would be typical if someone was going back to their car. That's why I didn't think anything of it, which is typical. But the more I thought, there was no way someone could have drove in after me, left before me, car facing away from the exit, and I not see their car whatsoever. Just wasn't possible. I mulled it over for the next, we go to get milk from a special lady too, so a farm. And I left the compactor, it's like 20-minute drive, so I'm thinking about this thing the whole way there, whole way back, listen to piano music. I'm trying to think, like, I'm trying to rule out every possible human flesh thing. I'm like, okay, that doesn't make sense, blah, blah, blah. Just wasn't possible. Wasn't possible she went into the small building. As I said, she walked towards the exit. And the way I would have had to leave was there's a fence here. I would have run her over. I do this every week, so it's extremely dun 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 dun, and I'm done. There's nothing to linger. There's not sports playing on the fence or anything. There's nothing to watch. There's nothing to do. No one's there. I'm out. So, as I said, she walked towards the exit, away from the building. Thinking about it afterwards, a little shaken up, some interesting things came to mind. It's interesting the wind knocked the box out of my hand. One of the first thoughts was that her arriving? Now, obviously, I'm saying her because that's the form it took, as like just a gentle figure from my perspective. Obviously, we know it's not her. Not what I'm getting at. But then I found it interesting. The woman smiled and laughed kindly and didn't say a word. Gentle and kind are the words that come to mind thinking about it. Thinking about what I saw is what I wrote. Honestly, it hit me most when I called my wife after. It didn't cross my mind, and I told her the story, and she reminded me I was studying to speak on angels today. It didn't cross my mind at all. I was pale probably the whole drive home. I'm like, wait a minute, you're right. I'm speaking. That's why I got quiet when you said that. I don't know. See, and then two, we don't. Just because we see an angel doesn't mean it has to be some massive life-changing moment. Because we also know the Father is a gentleman and He's gentle. So gentle nudges often work best. It doesn't have to be like if one of my kids got in trouble, I don't have to be harsh immediately every time. Sometimes a gentle nudge is plenty.
His kindness leads us to repentance.
And not only that, how many times have we done that? I just happen to already be doing something that I've done a million times. This is the only reason I noticed certain signs that, wait a minute, no one's here. How often? I remember this person. And it's interesting, it was a form of a person, like an older woman, because our town's pretty old. Our town's, there's a lot of older people, so it wasn't something where I would have gone, it's Brad Pitt. Like it wasn't a random person that I would have recognized. Or not even recognized, but someone that would have just been out of place, like a man in a suit throwing his trash. You see what I'm saying? It was someone that, to my flesh, wasn't immediate. So when it says unawares, you got to think they're coming in a form they know. Not only they, the Father has them come in. I don't know. I don't think that the interaction itself was something for me, in the sense of her laughing didn't make me think of a childhood memory or something. I think it was that I was studying this, and He wanted to smile at me. That's all I've got.
Very cool.
This is the personal story I was adding this morning, that I stayed up till midnight, and then this morning my brain was racked.
How cool is that
I've never had another moment like this.
of the acknowledgement of, yeah, you're going down the right path. Keep going.
Yeah, I've not had that. I've not.
Yeah, because that was honestly going to be my question. What do you think that it's not like they accidentally decloaked or something like that? You know, if that really was an angel, which seems to be, there was a reason. What was the reason? There wasn't a word. There wasn't a prophecy given.
Didn't say a word. Just a smile and
there wasn't a call to repentance.
Kindness, a kind laugh, and that was it. But it wasn't. Laugh's probably a bad word. Chuckle's not a good word. Giggle's weird. I don't know what to call it, but it's more of a, like the concept of a fatherly ha ha and then a hug kind of concept. It was gentle. It was kind. That's all I had. That's all I can think of in that moment.
And you were still kind.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I said excuse me. Like, yeah.
Right. It was. Yeah. It's maybe it was a test. Maybe
it could have been.
Know,
yeah.
Yeah. It seems like
to see how I'd interact.
A validation. Mm-hmm.
And I have ran into people. I take trash more often than just on the weeks, Fridays. I've run into people before. Hardly anybody in that town smiles. That's it. It's not often. So that, it did, honestly, it was, I'll say odd. Her smile, it was, I thought about it after I got in the car. Just sitting in the car. Like the moment I got back in the car, I was like, why was she smiling at me so strange? Because I think my brain started adding in some things. Like, I thought about it later. I was like, did she throw trash in? I didn't think she did. Did she? I was trying to wrap my head around, like, I think she was just standing there. That was it. And the compactor's probably, if it's up to here, no, hold on. It's probably up to here on me. She was smaller. So I only see a little bit of shoulder. She's wearing a black shirt, dark hair, not really old, closer to, like, how some older, like right before old, where they're like the wrinkles around the mouth. It was just a few of those, and that's it. That's the age. And that's it. And the moment I said, excuse me, a gentle laugh. And it was gone. Nothing else. Not a car in sight. Not a person in sight. Nothing.
It reminds me of the whole idea that, we're supposed to test and prove it out. And that he will, you've heard all kinds of stories that, oh, the Bible says that this is how it works. I'm going to test it out and see if that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes through all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And here you are testing out the angels and everything. And, reading Hebrews 13 too. He's like, all right, well, we're going to test this out. And I think, I don't know, that's really cool.
Bless you and keep you. His face shines upon you.
I think you're right. I think it happens, especially, think about it in a more small rural sense, like where you're at, it would be more noticeable.
Yeah.
Now that we're living in a city of hundreds of thousands of people,
it would truly be hospitality to strangers because you have no idea.
I would have no clue. I don't know half the people I see every day. I would have no clue. I would have no clue. They're like, oh, that person doesn't walk down the road. Or
another thought I had was this is going to sound weird until I finish it, but like you said, I live in a small town, rural. I've taken trash to this thing a million times, mostly on Fridays, but I've done other times, so I know people aren't typically smiling, ever, or even making eye contact. But as someone who's studied Scripture for so long, is digging into angels, most people don't do that. And I almost missed it. I was leaving. Have entertained angels without knowing it. I almost missed it. How often does it happen to other people? And they'd never know. That's why I wanted to ask, has anyone else seen an angel? The answer is probably yeah. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't know. Mm-hmm. I think the whole book of Tobit, the entire book,
he doesn't know.
His son's walking with an angel the entire time and has no idea and doesn't even realize. Isn't it Raguel? It's a big one.
Yeah, it's not even.
It's not just
an archangel.
It's an archangel.
It's Raphael.
It could like Gabriel level, Michael level.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah, he has no clue.
And I think he eats with him some fish. He tells him how to cook something for not only Tobit's eye, but the daughter he's about to go see.
Yeah.
If you remember the story that well.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, because he keeps the gall in the heart of the fish that almost. It says the fish is about to jump up and eat him. So who knows how big this fish is?
A good night's meal.
And the angel turns and catches it in there.
I don't remember those details. But yeah, just.
I feel like I only hear about men angels. Mm-hmm. Like when was it that someone saw a woman angel before?
Well, you got to think too. If they can take any form they wish, technically in that scenario, they could come as a child. They could come, imagine you're at the park and you see a kid by himself, blah, blah, blah. Your natural instinct is probably going to be, I say natural, it should be, take them to the front desk to where they get connected with their parents. What if that kid never kissed them? It's an angel testing to see how you would handle kindness in that moment, even though clearly it's not convenient because whatever you're doing something. You're not there for no reason. But that's one example.
I think about the kids have the book, the story about the cat that saved the kid from the dog, and how this cat behaved in a way that cats don't behave.
You should pull it up.
We can pull it up later, but. And the idea that they can take any form, and it says the cat just wandered into this kid's life weeks before. Is that an angel? I'm not trying to be.
It could be.
If they can take any form, it doesn't mean Or all these times that they say dolphins have protected people from sharks and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
now I do know the Father and through the angels can use creation to do things like that.
Sure.
But we can't forget He could put a full person in our lives, an animal in our lives. I saw a clip recently, I think 2 days ago maybe, and it was this guy flying down a normal old country road. Bird, massive bird. I thought it was odd. It was white. Middle of the night, giant white bird, huge. And obviously the guy like brakes because it's flying at his car. And he slows down. It was a cliff. He was gone, but he slowed down and just stopped. And the comments were like, dude. Dude. And now a lot of the comments were something like, what about the people that hit birds? That guy, he'd be dead. But this guy decided to stop because obviously he was startled by the bird. He would have died. Do you see? Like some people have those kind of stories, but it's like, we can't forget that might not have been a bird. It might have been something that man wouldn't have fixated on that so much, he ended up running off the road. It had to be something simple. If it's too scary, some people panic and run the other way. But you got to think how many times an angel actually showed up in their true form. It was typically to someone that the Father's already using, or he knew would be able to handle it, or needed that level of, this is the authority structure you're supposed to be in, straighten up.
Right.
It's not typically just a random individual, giant angel. And not only that, if the patriarchs are hitting the ground, do I want to see an actual angel in their presence? Like a literal form? That's scary. I was kind of pale thinking about this after the fact.
To your point, like, it doesn't mean that he can't also use creation. It doesn't.
Yeah.
We're not trying to say that it has to be an angel in all these places. And look at the simple example of Jonah and the fish.
Exactly. I don't think the fish didn't eat somebody.
It wasn't an angel that turned into a fish. That, like, we don't have any instance of that. He made a fish go and catch him and save his body. But it doesn't mean it can't be.
Yeah.
I also wonder too if it's like, could the angels invisible to our eyes be directing creation to,
Right.
Yeah.
for our benefit?
I mean, obviously, other than Jubilees, how they are over those categories, in for the glory of the Father, directing our lives, that's a yeah, probably, yeah. Other than that,
thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah, I wanted to end it there, because obviously, if I dig into 8 and 9 of Hebrews, buddy, be another hour.
Well, that's what the next song is referencing, is verses 8 and 9. So maybe we.
No, that's fine. It's a preface. It's a preface. Yeah, we'll keep it.
Pull an audible and swap it for anything else.
Yeah.
I was told we were going to.
I told him 8 and 9, and then the more I looked at it, I was like, unless they want to be there for 3 to 5 business days, we're gonna have to change. We're gonna have to change it.
Quick little rabbit trail where we talked about touching Yeshua. I always thought that the verse was like, he said to Mary, "Don't touch me," but in this translation, in John,
I have not yet ascended. Yeah, whatever he says.
Jesus said to her, "Stop clinging to me," indicating that she already was clinging to him. "For I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go to my brothers and say to them, I ascend to the Father and your Father, my God and your God."
Oh, like, get off me, I'm in a hurry.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because I always thought that it was like, don't touch me, no touching, no touching.
Oh, I would know.
Or stop fixating on me, like,
Right.
I'm leaving, you need focus here now.
That was a verse I didn't put in here. But it said, sugar and salt. It was Baruch. It said something like you cannot be defiled. A lot of people think that for some reason something unholy makes something holy unclean, and it's the other way around. You can't defile something set apart. Obviously, here in the creation you can, but a human being, someone just throws him into the kingdom. The kingdom's not defiled now. That's not how it works. But if that's the case, then technically, I've heard sermons a million times about, well, she didn't touch him because he's going to heaven and he has to be clean. And if that says clinging, like I'm in a hurry, can somebody make a heavenly body made of water? He can just switch out the bad water with some more water?
Well, think about it with the angels. I mean, we never hear of an angel being defiled by being around.
Exactly.
The angels that were.
And how do you clean something?
Leading Lot out of Sodom and Gomorrah, they were never said they were defiled.
Yeah, and how do you clean something? An all-consuming fire. That's what they are.
That's what they are.
Can you really make a cleaning object dirty? They themselves are what cleans something. So can you make it dirty?
Themselves?
Yeah, if by their deeds.
Yeah, but
you can only be defiled by your deeds.
They can't be defiled by
Stamp.
being around.
Did it start raining?
Yeah. So there's another instance too in Matthew, very end. It says, "And he left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy, and ran to report it to his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them and said, 'Greetings.' And they came up and took hold of his feet and worshipped him."
He was wearing long johns, socks.
The Mormon long john?
Yeah, that's
I'm thinking long johns with butt flaps.
perfect. Even better. Even better. Yeah, that's it. They were bright red.
Eliminate that food that.
But there you go. And again, that's yet another doctrine that is often preached, even on our circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes sense.
And makes sense.
Until you actually read.
It makes sense because it's familiar.
Uh-huh.
I've said that many times. That's something I've tried to tell my family was, what's easier to understand is what you've already understood. So if someone's made the case and explained something to you, that's always going to be easier and seem right because a man is right in his own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Leaning on our own understanding is the easy thing to do. And it always will be.
Yeah.
Are you raising your hand?
A question?
Look like you're about to ask
Talking
me.
to you.
You're just stretching.
You got a question?
Look like you're about to ask something.
Just right in his face.
But my first one was 45 minutes. We've been going an hour and 47 minutes. So
It's all right. We
On
don't
track.
measure it in time here.
Sorry.
yeah, that's
Don't
it.
worry, we don't have the planning center that says, we got to get to this next.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Did you get all wet?
Maybe that's why the Father made it a Sabbath day.
Yeah, the whole day. I know.
He's like, I know you're gonna go home.
Because wasn't it Second Chronicles Sukkot when they were there all day and Ezra's reading the law or something?
Oh yeah,
Like the
when he
whole
read the
thing.
law,
Yeah,
it was the whole day.
I think it mentioned the whole day for almost every day for the whole day.
But he read them the book of the law, which we don't have.
I don't know.
It was a good study. That is not the direction.
I couldn't go to 8 and 9. Hour and 48 minutes. I didn't go to 8 and 9 for a reason.
No,
I figured it would take
So
long.
much juicy stuff about angels. Yeah, so good.
And I took out most. I had to.
And the Father was directing you that way, leading you to the encounter on Friday. Like you've been studying this for a week and a half.
Had I not been studying, would I have noticed?
No, probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't know.
And it's not so much like had you not noticed, you would have missed the blessing of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what like Hebrews 13 says. It's not about, you didn't entertain my angels. It's that if you're not being like this to everyone, you're going to miss out on the blessing that I'm trying to give you by entertaining one of my messengers.
If you do not giving water to the least of these, I think one of my verses, the next verse is where he says, if you give water to the least of these, you're giving it to me.
Yeah, remember the prisoners, as though in prison with them.
Yeah, yes.
Those who are mistreated, consider yourself out the Lord's lion.
I think they're having fun back there.
Yeah.